It's Kristen from Homemade Frontier. Hi, how you doing? Who's ready to knit socks? First step is to knit a swatch and measure your stitches per inch. Then I'm going to show you how to cast on and knit in the round. It's a little bit tricky, but I'm confident you guys can do it. Part of this is filmed outside, but we had to come in because the neighbor was determined to play Glass Tiger really loud. And I thought that was disruptive to our sock knitting lesson. Step one of sock creation is to knit yourself a little swatch. I have about 30 stitches there, and I use the needle that I want. So once you have your swatch knit, take a measuring tape. I'm using this little handy dandy tool from my sewing kit, and count how many stitches you have per inch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then do it twice, because sometimes it's not always the same. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and a half. So we're going to say 8 per inch. Get a tape measure and measure the circumference of your leg where you think the top of your sock, like if you're making knee socks, get right up to the top, but mostly down here where your sock's going, and I got like 10 inches. And then you do some math. Once you've done your calculations and figured out how many stitches to cast on, the next step is to figure out if you want to do a 2x2 rib or a 1x1 rib. If you want to do a 2x2 rib, that's 2 knit, 2 purl, 2 knit, 2 purl. That's what I'm doing in the example. You need a multiple of 4. If you want to do a 1x1, you need a multiple of 2. So that means an even number. Your best bet is to reduce the number of stitches rather than increase. If you really want slouchy socks, then you want to increase it. But if you want a sock that's going to hold to your leg, you're best to reduce a few stitches. I'm using fat yarn and a fat needle to show you how to cast on because that's really tiny and I thought it would be hard to see. So I've casted on randomly 39 stitches or so. And now I'm going to pass the camera to somebody else so I can knit for you. To knit socks, you need 4 double-pointed needles. Once your stitches are cast on, you need to transfer them to 2 other needles. So, you don't knit them, you just slide them across. Slide them as if to purl is what I'm doing. It doesn't really matter how you slide them, as long as you don't twist them while you're doing it. Divide them up evenly. Best to have even number of stitches on each needle. So that it's simpler to do the ribbing. Unless you're doing 1x1 ribbing, then it doesn't matter. I've got some stitches on the other needle, and now it's time to put the to slide stitches onto the 3rd needle. So do it the same way. I don't have enough stitches for a sock here. I'm just doing this as a demonstration. My dog is hysterical because the kids are outside and he is not. Oh. When you've divided up your stitches evenly, lie your knitting out and make sure that you have not twisted the stitches. So the cast on edge should be pointed in the same direction, like see here where it's not. Get everything pointed in the same direction. That's really the most important part when you cast, when you knit in the round, is to not stitch, not twist your stitches. Don't twist your stitches. And then take your 4th needle and get started. So I need my yarn over on this side, and I'm going to start doing a 2x2 rib. So I'm going to knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2. Do not be discouraged if you have to do this 15 times. It is really tricky knitting, but as I said, I'm totally confident that you guys can do it. And once you've mastered this, really, there's nothing in knitting you can't do. Promise. So, get your yarn, and you've got a little triangle going on here. And get going. Get your needle underneath, knit, pull it as tight as you can so that you don't get like a big, but really for the first one it's not such a big deal. And when you get to do the second one, yank the yarn so that it pulls the two needles together. So there's knit 2. Then bring the yarn to the front and purl 2. Just like we did in the ribbing. If you want to be fancy and you want to do a 1x1 rib, go to it. I'm sticking with 2x2. That was purl 2, so bring the yarn to the back. I'm now at the end of a row, and I have to do 2 purl stitches. So bring the yarn to the front. Whoops. Bring the yarn to the front. Do the 2 purl stitches to end the row. And then come to the next row. I like to have the needle I'm knitting on the top. I just find it's easier to hold. And I'm going to start with 2. This is my last row in the round. I like to double check that I've not twisted anything up. If you see that it's like wonky like that, you're going to need to rip it out and do it again because you've twisted it somewhere. As I said, don't be discouraged if you have to do this 15 times. It's tricky business, but once you've got it, you can make anything. Okay, what did I end on? Purl? I ended on purl? Ken says purl. So now I'm going to get started with 2 knit. Pull the yarn as firmly as you can to keep the needles together. Don't reef it so hard that you won't be able to knit it next time, but pull it pretty tightly. So 2 knit, and then 2 purl. Carry on like so. Once you've done a whole round and you get back to the beginning, you just keep going again, matching up. So here I did 2 knit on the beginning, so you do 2 knit. Again, pull it kind of firmly, especially at the beginning one because that's usually the loosest one. Pull it firmly to keep the stitches all together. And then carry on until you're fed up with ribbing. And then sock. The ribbing is mostly to keep the sock up. So do as much as you like. And there you have it. We have started knitting in the round. Kind of magic. Mostly just takes a lot of practice. Over and out. This is Kristen from Homemade Frontier. Happy knitting.